Hello, Naxigla here. Happy Pride Week. It's Pride Week in my city, so I decided to make episode 13 of Asexuality in film. This is my lovely demi romantic flag, but I can't hold it anymore, so enjoy the little flags behind me. So, like I said, it's a Pride Week. So there's gonna be an Ace Arrow meetup on Friday, and I hope to go, but I'm not really sure if I can manage. But there's gonna be a Pride March on Saturday, so I'm absolutely going there. So that's fun. I'm looking forward to that. And also, if you're on Tumblr, I have polls on who's the best asexual and who's the best aromantic character in Finnish fiction. That's fun. That's going on right now. So it's episode 13, hopefully not unlucky one, of Asexuality in film, and I'm going to be talking about the Japanese film Sobakasu, also known as Freckles, but I think its official English title became I Am What I Am, and my drink of choice today is a kiwi lemonade. Fall is coming, so my voice is a bit possibly. I've tried to fix it. So, anyway, let's go on with it. And so, Freckles, which is the name I'm gonna be used, is written by Atsushi Asada. Sorry, I have like 2 pages of notes on my notebook, and then I'm getting the names of my drama list. The writer was Atsushi Asada, and the director is Samada Shinua, and it was released in December of 2022. If you watch my video for Cherry Magic, December is a very romantic time in Japan, so it's interesting that it was released at that time, because like I was gonna say it would be like releasing an aromantic movie during February in most of the Western world, except that there are basically no aromantic movies, except this one. This is kind of a very aromantic movie, which is kind of like when I look at the promo material, it's very much about that the main character, Kasumi is the first name, so that's what I'm gonna be using, played by Miura Toko. And so a lot of the promo material is about how she's aromantic, and I didn't know whether or not, so because this is asexuality in film, I don't really wanna like aromantic and asexuality, they have their differences and whatever. I'm gonna actually talk about this a little later. But she is actually asexual too, even though the promo materials don't mention that at all. But I'm gonna get back to that aspect later. So small plot summary. Hopefully I don't ramble about this. So Sobakasu. This is very awkward. I haven't done this in a while. So Kasumi is 30. She works at the call center. She went to music school and she plays the cello. And at one point in the movie, she switched jobs. She doesn't really like doing the call center job, so she switches jobs to I think it's a kindergarten, like a teacher's assistant at a kindergarten. There's lots of small kids who mostly just play around, so I assume it's more kindergarten rather than preschool or something, but I don't know how the Japanese school system exactly works. But don't worry, I don't really understand how the American one works either or anything. So it's very much of this kind of slice of life type of movie. There's some plot, but nothing very exciting, I would say. Like, it's a lot about Kasumi's relationships and her navigating the world as an asexual, aromantic person, and how that affects her life. and I very much enjoyed it. And it brought up a couple of extra topics that I'm gonna talk about later, because so basically, so Kasumi's 30, so her parents very much want, her mother especially really wants her to get married, and because she at her call center job she went to a mixer, so basically there's, I guess that just means that there were men and women at the after work gathering, and so it's, oh, she's ready for getting married, so I'm just gonna go behind go talk to a marriage broker behind her back, and then her mother tricks her into going on a date with someone. Sorry, I'm looking up the name again. Gogure Shaw, and at first things go like it's awkward because like neither one really wants to be on this date, but they both like they bond over like in Japanese food, like ramen especially, and he actually has a restaurant, and they both like, I don't want to get married yet, and stuff like that, so they get along well ultimately, and they start spending some time together. And unfortunately, as it sometimes happens, they spend time together, Shaw's feelings turn romantic, and he makes a move on Kasumi. They have gone some other city for a restaurant. They are staying at the hotel. They have separate rooms, but he invites himself in for a nightcap, and then he sits next to her and tries to kiss her, and she's like, nope, no, I do not want this. And then she comes out to him as asexual, and she defines it for herself that she doesn't feel love and has no sexual interest in others, and that's basically very much how those are basically the terms, how basically the way she defines herself throughout the movie when she has to explain herself to people. So she is very much both asexual and aromantic, but the only label she uses is asexual, which is one of the topics I'm going to talk about later. But unfortunately, Shaw doesn't take it well at all. He's like, oh, you never like me, you don't have to lie. And like, it's basically, he just reacts to it basically in a way that, okay, you don't like me, like, I don't buy that you ever liked me because your liking didn't turn into romantic because your liking wasn't the same as mine. And like, it's very painful to watch. And like Kasumi's like, oh my god, did I lead you on? Like, I let you come into my room, but I thought we were friends. And it's like, it's a heartbreaking and a hard scene to watch, but it's not as an unfortunately it doesn't get into anything more like emotionally serious, but not physically serious. Sorry. So then they break up, and she tells that to her family, and then it's one of the few issues I have with the movie. Is basically like she breaks up with Shaw, and she comes home and tells that, and then she's like, you know, whatever, mom, you want me to get married, just bring on the next guy, and I will just marry who I want. I don't really care. But then that plotline is never coming back to. So like her mother never tries to hook her up with anyone else. But I don't. It's not because like she respects her boundaries or whatever, or her lack of desire for marriage. I mean, like when she brought her to the date, she actually like, okay, you go on this date or I'll kick you out, which is not good. It's not very much not good. So yeah, then the next part of the slice of life is basically Kasumi meets an old classmate from junior high. I don't know what that means in the Japanese context or really an American context. But yeah, so like teenagers. She old friend. Her name is Maho. Again, I'm Yonaka Maho is her name. So they start getting along really well. Like Maho defended Kasumi when they were teenagers about her hair against the teacher, and that was something that really stuck with both of them. So when they end up meeting at the beach randomly, they start hanging out together, and it's going well. And like Kasumi feels comfortable enough to come out to Maho. She doesn't use labels at the time, but she also basically explains, I don't have like romantic or sexual inclinations. And this comes after Maho is Kasumi. There's some kind of card show things. I don't know if you. Hadn't really heard about it. It's like it's kind of like similar if you take a stack of papers and you draw a picture, and like the picture is really slightly different every time, and then you flip them through, then you get a moving picture. It's not quite like that elaborate, but something like that. So anyways, Kasumi likes those, and she wants to do one for her work about Cinderella. And when it comes to Cinderella, yes, the basic concept of the Cinderella story can be very amatonormative. Like it's very much like, oh, a pretty girl gets to go to the princess palace for a dance in a pretty dress, and he immediately falls in love with her, and then they live happily ever after. And it's like, yeah, it's not. It has the basic story has flaws, but also I also understand that it can be that the Cinderella story can be very important for people who have suffered abuse, familial abuse, and there's more to the story. And like there's actually a really funny Tumblr thread is basically about like Cinderella has to do something about Prince Charming's face blindness. That's very interesting. So there are interesting ways to look at the story of Cinderella. But the basics of it can be very amatonormative, and like Maho is like very against it. Like it's so boring. Like why is marriage everybody's like goal in life and stuff like that, and like so she goes on a rant about that. So Kasumi is like, she understands me. I can basically come out to her, and then with Maho, Kasumi makes basically an ROA's Cinderella that I very much love, but she gets into trouble with that because like there's a politician who's actually Maho's father, who's visiting them at the time when she's showing it, and so it's like we shouldn't, like it's fine for adults to be who they are, whatever, but we shouldn't let children be exposed to these kind of peculiar values before their own values are probably set and stuff like that. And again, Maho finds out about she rants at him and yells at him in public and to her father, who's a big shot politician. And so I really like the dynamic. And so they decide to, they think about, hey, let's move in together. It would be good for Kasumi to live independently, and Maho was also talking about getting a new place. So they very much make plans for it. They meet some real estate brokers, stuff like that, and they are doing that. But unfortunately, Maho decided to get together with her ex-boyfriend from Tokyo, and they're actually getting married very soon. I assume it's very soon. So again, so that's another type of heartbreak for Kasumi, but she's also very happy, genuinely happy for Maho that she gets to marry. That like, yeah, she was like marriage isn't the goal for, it shouldn't be the goal for anyone, but he's happy to get married, like Maho. So it's one of those complicating things that I'm probably gonna start talking about the amatonormativity experiences soon. So basically, just a little bit plot, a plot left. So Maho gets married to someone else. Kasumi keeps living with her parents, with her family in the same rooms. She's always lived in. And then they don't really buy that she's generally happy for Maho, and then her sister not really accuses, but says, are you a lesbian? Like, if you are, you can just say it, no one's gonna judge you for it. And that's one of the complicated things, because yeah, most likely, like, sometimes people can be aphobic while not being homophobic. Like, sometimes people accept the fact that you are fall in love or have sex with multiple people of multiple genders or with the same gender or whatever, but they are not comfortable with the fact that you don't want that at all. So then she again essentially has to come out to her family that, and like, no, I'm not a lesbian. I don't fall in love. I'm happy the way I am, even if that might make me weird, but I am what I am. And yeah, and like her family like deals with it. It doesn't, like, there's a couple of plot lines that the movie doesn't really follow through on, and I think that was kind of one of them. Like they don't kick her out at that point, but like there are certain things I would like the movie to elaborate on. But then final bit. So basically, there's a new person that came to work at the kindergarten, whatever. All I got from his name is Tendo, but I think he is played by Kitamura Takumi, but he has a very different name on my drama list, so I don't really know. That's just Mr. Tendo that she's helping get used to the job, and he like invites her to the movies, and then she's like, towards the end of the movie, and then he's like, I don't know why you invited me to the movies. I have to just tell, I don't feel, I'm not romantically interested in people. And then he brings up her Cinderella that she showed at the school, and he said that it's nice to know that I'm not alone. So it's nice that there's another aromantic character there brought into the end. So like, he's not alone, she's not alone, but they're also happy to be alone. You know what I mean. So I enjoyed the movie a lot. Like, as talking about it, there are a couple of things that the movie could have dealt with a bit more or elaborated on. But I very much enjoyed it, and it's nice, like, this kind of slice of life, low-key thing. But it does deal a lot about amatonormativity. So let's get into that. And so, it deals with amatonormativity in a lot of ways. Starting with one of the first things both Kasumi and Tendo have to deal with when they start at the kindergarten is to deal with a kitty love triangle. Like, there's one kid is sad because he got his heart broken because the girl he likes another boy, even though the girl also likes him. And she has, how do I deal with this? I don't know how to deal with this. But and then there's another heartbreak with what that Tendo has to deal with later on. I think it might be the same kids, actually. And then there's, of course, so then after this her first day or so. She's talking with her friend who got her the job, Yashiro Tsuyoshi, who actually comes out to her as gay, like queer, recognizes queer, kind of thing. But even that, he's like, he came out as gay, and Kasumi is kind of like trying to explain her own experiences. Like she's talking about how when she was like in second grade or something, a boy just came up to her and told her he liked her, and she didn't know how to react to that. And Yashiro is like, well, kids are like that. Kids don't always understand these feelings, which is like, like he's trying his best, but like he doesn't really. It's not quite the right thing to say at this moment, but he doesn't really realize that. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Like, I don't know why I brought it up, but Yashiro does later when she gets shit on for the Cinderella. He is supportive of her, like very briefly, like don't let it get to you. So that was nice. And then this, of course, Kojuresho, the marriage broker partner, who was all like, I want to concentrate on my work, what even it's a point of marriage or dating and all that. So like very seemed to be simpatico with Kasumi, but then his feelings changed and suddenly her friendship wasn't enough, and must have her friendship must have even not been real. Like he's like, did you ever like me at all? And like it was interesting that when Shaw is lying to like tell that he's interested in her romantically, he's like he's like, I like you, and Kasumi is as a friend, and he's like, no, as a girl, and at least from based on the subtitles, so that's like very interesting way of phrasing that. So like it's something that sometimes happens, like someone's like, oh, I want to concentrate on my work, but oh, then they meet someone who they fall for, but like it's frustrating to be the one they fall for when you don't want to fall back or you don't. So yeah, that was a bummer, and especially when Kasumi blames herself for that, like, oh, did I lead you on by being your friend, even though they were both had the like they had the mutual understanding that neither one wants marriage at the time. Just because Shaw's feelings changed doesn't mean that it's wrong that Kasumi's didn't. And then there's Maha, which is her friend who was actually a former porn star. And it's actually very interesting how they have Kasumi deal with that. Like hey, you were cool. You were a porn star for 5 years. You were very popular. People still recognize you for that. I think that's really cool. Which was interesting, I thought. But so yeah, it's I kind of wanted a bit more with Maho, because like, yeah, Maho is like, okay, I moved back into this city from Tokyo. I lived with a boyfriend. We broke up. And then she's all like, why does everybody think that marriage is the be all end all and all that? And she goes on this very real rant about it. I think a lot of the quotes in the trailer for Freckles is actually from Maho's rant. But she reacts very well to Kasumi's coming out and encourages her to make the Cinderella for her that Kasumi can identify with. And then she seemed genuinely very interested in living together with her. But then she just reconnects with her boyfriend, and now they're getting married. Which is kind of like, it feels very abrupt. and somewhat weird. But I don't think it necessarily invalidates Maho's points about marriage and what her feelings were about marriage just because she then decides to get married. So like I think it shows the multiple ways amatonormativity affects people's lives basically right from the beginning. And yeah, I think it's very interesting. And I guess there's the whole kind of details that their grandmother that is living with Kasumi and her family has been married 3 times and divorced 3 times, and then this whole thing that like is Kasumi's sister Mutsumi is her husband cheating on her because she's pregnant now. And then there's like he might be like he had to stay at stay at a hotel with a female colleague. Did something happen? We don't know. The movie moves on to the point of whether or not Kasumi is a lesbian or not at that fight. So it's like, so I don't know, what does the movie think about marriage? Like we don't really see much of Kasumi's parents' marriage. They seem, I guess they are happy, but it's not really dwelled on, so I don't know. The movie kind of seems to have mixed things about marriage. I don't know. The second extra topic is the fact that Kasumi only uses the label of asexual. She comes out as asexual too, sure, and also explains that most of her experiences are the more obviously aromantic experiences, like having to deal with amatonormativity, people wanting to date her, wanting to marry her, all that stuff. So it's one of those weird things that even though we mostly talk about things through the lens of sexual orientation, what we are more comfortable talking about is romantic aspects of relationships and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, so like non-sam asexual exist and non-sam aromantics exist. Like non-sam means the split attraction model, so like no one is required to, even though if they have experiences that align with both asexual with the romantic and sexual label, no one is actually required to use both. So I do think it's very interesting that the movie that is so very much about amatonormativity and aromantic experiences only uses the label asexual. Because like 2022 was actually an interesting year in Japan when it comes to aspect representation. Like you had also Cherry Magic movie and this one, and then of course Koisen no Futari, which I still haven't watched. I watched the first episode without subtitles, so I understand nothing, and I watched part of the first episode with subtitles. And I'm gonna get to it at some point. I finally watched Scam France season 12, which there's a lot of good stuff in that. So I need to actually get to Koisen no Futari at some point. But so Koisen no Futari does use asexual and aromantic, maybe even those English, specifically those English terms, whereas this movie doesn't. I'm not really sure. I should have listened to more closely to the moment she comes out, because I'm not sure if she uses asexual or if it's just translated as asexual, if it's some kind of more big, specific term. But so basically she is a non-sam using asexual, like her label is asexual, even if most of the experience she deals with are that of an aromantic, and she does identify as like she doesn't feel love, has no romantic inclinations, and similar terms. She uses similar terms, and she doesn't want romance doesn't want a relationship, doesn't want to get married. All of that's a part of it. But it basically, I'm not trying to say that it's like that's. I'm just saying that like it's valid. Like it's valid to only have an asexual label, even if most of what you have to deal with in day-to-day life is the issues relating with romance, and but also it's really frustrating how little aromantic is used, even though when it applies. And so I'm not sure. I don't really know if it's a flaw of this movie for not using aromantic, even though it very much could or should. Like it's an overall issue that characters that could be using both only use one, and then we have to fight for the recognition that both labels apply, and that those especially if those labels lead to no, you can't ship this character, no, this character doesn't want sex. And I do also need, because like when Shaw is making his move, he's not he's not like he's kissing her, but it's not like he's not asking her to he's not asking Kasumi to marry him at this moment. Like it's very clear that's because his interest in her has changed, that it now has a sexual component, not only just a romantic one. So like it's not like sexuality and asexuality are completely removed from these experiences that Kasumi goes through, even though they are mostly through the lens of mostly through the lens of romance, because so much of romance is entangled with sexual stuff. Like I just watched a Finnish TV show where there's like this seemingly happy couple, but oh, we haven't had sex in a while, and like of course that's an issue, and like they can't work out the issues until they have start having sex again. So it's like it's one of those things. Like things are complicated, and I wish they had used aromantic, but I don't think it's necessarily wrong that she just used it asexual. But the lack of acknowledging that asexuality in the movie's marketing is also kind of weird. Because like again, it's fine to talk about romance, but don't talk about sex, and it's like it's one of those. It's a complicated thing. This has been extremely long and very rambly. My voice is giving out. So hopefully you get something out of this. I enjoyed the movie. If it's on your Netflix, please watch it. It was Freckles or I Am What I Am, Sobakasu, or like the main actress does a very great job. I very much enjoyed it. Is it perfect? No, but I highly recommend it. So, bye, finally.